Morning, everybody. Welcome to Chassidus in the morning. Kuntres Hatefila. Finishing up after the last parak. Well, not really the last parak. But what we've been learning. Parak test. Basically, parak test is talking about, and this is sort of summation of what we've been talking about from Aleph all the way through. Is now we understand, hopefully, what das is. And that's what we're going to be doing. So we understand that's what we're going to do. And so we're working on it. And he's saying part of it is that with the das, it'll help you work on Nefesh Bahamis, which we talked about last class, which is really the ultimate purpose of the Nefesh Lakis coming down. Purpose of our godly soul to come and invest within us is to work on ourselves, to be the best ourselves we can be. And that's through listening to the Nefesh Lakis, through listening to what he's telling us. And now we're going to discuss it, but ultimately in order to do all these things, we need to, so to speak, daven with it. Now, there's the actual davening with it aspect that, like, if we have time, we should try to daven. When we daven, we meditate on the things that we've learned and think about what they mean and how to apply it to themselves. That's what Chassidim back in the day used to do. But now it means taking the Maimer and not just learning it, but really taking some time out, whether it's officially, like actually taking time out, or whether it's like thinking about it during a day, about what the member is trying to teach me, and how do I connect to this, and and thinking about God and putting them together. Let's see. Parak Test, top of page 90, chapter 9. The transformational power of prayer. It is impossible to receive the godly light of studying Chassidus without proper prayer. So, again, this is from the Rebbe Shabbos time, and davening was a very important, not that davening isn't important now, but davening at length and really meditating on Chassidus while davening, spending an hour or two. You could say for nowadays, it's like, half the time, sort of, half an hour, spending 15 minutes to half an hour would be as equal. Das continued. Similarly, it is understood when one's service of prayer is amid the deep delving concentration of das, like we've been talking about till now. One davens level of das that is really connecting to the world and connecting to the Chassidus that he's learning, so that the godly light is felt in his mind and heart, so he feels the godliness. Then the person senses the goodness, i.e. the excellence of godliness. So then he senses the greatness of godliness, the excellence of it. As a result, he becomes excited with a love and yearning for God, which is ultimately what we're looking for over here. We're looking to be connected to God, to want to connect to God, to feel that connection with God. And he's saying through learning properly, the Chassidus you're learning, it will have a result that you'll truly want to connect to God. To the degree that the person feels the virtue of godliness, he feels the baseness of evil. And the more you feel the virtue, the benefit of elikus, the more you will recognize the opposite in regards to klippa. Meaning, if you realize how good it is, how healthy it is to eat healthy, you'll equally realize how bad or detrimental it is to eat unhealthy. So he's saying everything in life, there's a counterbalance. So the more you appreciate one, the less you appreciate the other. You can't appreciate eating healthy and the benefits of eating healthy, and at the same time appreciate eating junk food, because if you do appreciate the junk food, that means you don't really appreciate the healthy stuff. And the more, and that's how you can tell how good a way you're holding is how much you have the desire for the unhealthy things in your life. And the more you desire the unhealthy things in your life, meaning not just the physically unhealthy, but the spiritual unhealthy, the bad decisions that we make, it shows in the opposite how much we're missing in the good, on the good side of things. The extent to which a person truly feels the virtue of godliness and the inferiority of evil determines the depth of truthfulness and his decision to choose goodness and to despise evil, truly despising evil. Yeah. So essentially, he's saying that they kind of contrast each other, and the more we can connect ourselves to Elikus, and the more we can connect ourselves to learning Chassidus in a real way, and the more we can put in the effort to try to daven and try to think that what's important in my life is godliness, and connecting to godliness, and doing Torah mitzvahs. That's what's important. And the more we can recognize in our lives that, the more we will be able to push ourselves to not go on the other hand, to want things that aren't that. Prayer versus Torah study. Thus, refinement and purification of one's natural emotions is achieved only through the service of prayer, not through Torah study. Like we said before, that to transform yourself to just learning is highly unlikely unless you're a tzaddik. Said in chapter 2. For the study of Torah, even its innermost dimensions, meaning Chassidus, which affords a person knowledge and comprehension of godliness, does not effectuate refinement or purification of the natural emotion. Just learning Chassidus is not going to transform you. It's not going to make you work on yourself and transform your natural emotions, your upbringing, your nature, and your nurture, and move them to become better. But as explained above, only individuals with sublime souls can achieve this refinement through the spiritual source, through a supernal source, through Torah study. Only at a very high level, your neshama, then you could do it that way. But for the majority of souls, refinement can be effected only through internal effort. But for the rest of us, we have to put in the effort. Therefore, the natural emotions retain their original tenacity. So without working on it, just learning it, it's not going to achieve anything. People wonder why they haven't changed. It's because you're not putting in the effort in the right places to actually change. You can't sit on your couch and watch movies and eat junk food and say, hey, how come I'm not losing any weight? I watch exercise videos. It's a start, but it's not going to get you there. You have to take care of the other issues. And just learning about it, just learning about Chassidus is not enough. Even if a person binds his das and applies it deeply during his studies, as explained above, and even when and this is a deep level, he's saying, and even when he learns, he puts in the effort to understand it in the level of das, he connects to what he's learning. And explained above, that one should habituate oneself to do so, which is a good thing, that's how we meant to do it. This produces no significant measure of sense perception of godliness or excitation, but that's not enough. It's not enough to learn it in the level of das, which is a great level, and it's how you should. For although such fine study also results in some excitation, although you do get excited, and I've experienced this, it's true, and you feel it. You get excited when you're learning something that you connect to, that are like, wow, very powerful, causing a person to feel top of 92 that one thing is good and the other is ... meaning that you can recognize what's good and what's not good, and you feel it, you sense what you're learning when you're learning, and that he ought to choose the good, and you recognize and you resolve to yourself, look, it's clear, let me choose the right path. I know what I should be doing differently, and that's what I should do. Nevertheless, this feeling isn't sufficiently internalized to become integrated in your soul. In a short while, it fades away, but it's not long lasting. It's hard for it to be long lasting. This is because the sensation and exhilaration experienced in the course of study, even assiduous study, this is because even when you're learning, and you're learning well, is not comparable to what can be experienced during prayer, which is a proprietor's time, both on high and below. It is conducive to the absorption of the goodly light. And he's saying, but if you manage to daven with it, you not just learn it and connect with it, but then you daven, and while you're davening, you daven to Hashem, the Hashem give you the ability to see what's right and do what's right. And then you think about this maimon that you've learned in those terms, you connect to in those terms, the davening will have a much deeper effect than what your learning does, even learning in a proper way. Therefore, it is possible for a person to have studied Chassidus prodigiously and still to be utterly distant from godliness. So unfortunately, a person could be learning a lot of Chassidus improperly, but it will still be distant. In fact, the very opposite may be true. Some individuals, for example, study Chassidus and are excited by the goodliness of the subject, but the instant the study ends, it is betrayed by their behavior. But unfortunately, when we see this too often, a lot of people learn Chassidus, but the way they act afterwards is as if they didn't learn. It doesn't look like You learn Chassidus. It's embarrassing sometimes even. They engage in frivolity and scoffing, and some even in profane speech and the like, coming very close to prohibited behavior, to the point where they are susceptible to plunging into absolute evil. God save us. And that's how bad it can become. And this is due to the coarse evil in their souls, which is as forceful as ever, not having been weakened in the least through this study. Because when they davened, when they learned, it didn't change anything. So learning, he's sort of saying, learning is a good level, and especially we're talking about if you learn well, like properly, like a dash, you connect to what you're learning. That's great, but you can have a whole different experience. You could be so much more if you try to connect with that after you've learned, while you're davening, and while you're sitting there thinking about during the day, and spending some time thinking about what the Maimon means and how to connect to it, and that and sort of having conversation with the Maimon, with you and with God. That Bab is especially true of a person whose nature is materialistic and coarse, as will be discussed later. Conversely, a naturally contrite person is moved a little through diligent study, but only for a short while, in order for the impact to last, prayer is necessary, as mentioned. And as mentioned before, we're talking about this davening. You need to daven, because if a person is by nature animalistic, then for sure all the learning he's going to have is not going to work. Poisonous pride. And now he's going to say that basically, and this is near the end, he's going to say, let's try to finish it up. He's going to say that a big issue is that if you don't do it properly, but you've learned, then you have all this information, so you feel so good about yourself. And you think, look how great I am. I've learned so much Chassidus, and I'm a big Baki in Chassidus, and I know so much Chassidus. And so it's going to whole opposite direction where we're meant to go. Let's see, with like a meaning ego. Without engaging in meaningful prayer, even what a person has studied and mastered is transformed into poison. If you don't daven with a maimah, you don't really connect to it, then it becomes poison. God save us. He becomes even coarser and even more egoistic. This poison penetrates and descends deep into his soul until it destroys him. God save us. Accordingly, the classic works on Jewish ethics elaborates on how conceit and self-importance are the quintessential source of impurity. Self-importance, feeling that you are so important, you're so great. Not that you're not, but it's the use of it in the wrong direction. Meaning it says, a person has to say that the world's created for him. That doesn't mean that the world's created for me to abuse the world and do whatever I want. It means the world is created for me to bring out the potential the world has for good. And that's what he's saying. But when it's taken the wrong way, so a person is all about himself. It's all about himself. Look how great I am. Like Paris said, it's all me. It's all what I did. And it's not. And so it's important to understand that we're not meant to be so self-involved. It's a long discussion. I want to finish, but it's a long discussion. For they represent the epitome of egotism and coarse evil, and are the root of all negative dispositions. See what he stated in the first chapter of Seitar, and it talks about over there about how we shouldn't have such an ego. And basically, these people, they learn Chassidus and Chassidus from an ego. Look how much I've learned, and they walk around like they know so much, but they don't actually work on themselves. And the purpose of Chassidus is not to make yourself feel great how much you learned. The purpose of Chassidus is to make you feel the importance of your life, how important you have to work on yourself. It says the Chassidim in like of old, they would hide what they were doing. They didn't want people finding out. When people would find out, they would get very bothered about it. Why? Because people would give them all the credit, and they felt that it wasn't that they had the potential for good, and they were just expressing that potential through their efforts, and they didn't want to get all the credit because they felt Hashem gave them the gift of that potential, and they were just expressing it. Whereas here, we're taking it. So look how smart I am. Look how much I learned. And you can't walk around. Do you know what it says in that maimon? Oh, you don't understand. I'll explain to you what it means. You're not coming from a place you care about the other person. You want to help them out, understand Chassidus and have a better life. It's more you want to show off what you've learned. Because this is what is the meaning of the verse. Why is the purchase price of wisdom in the hands of the fool? Since he lacks an understanding heart, it would have been preferable for him not to have acquired wisdom at all. Then at least he would not have fallen prey to conceit. Why is the purchase price of wisdom, meaning the ability to have wisdom, and how the fool the person doesn't understand what he's getting? He's making prices, but doesn't appreciate what the value of making the price is. I'm going to stop here, just near the end, but I don't want to rush it too much, and we can finish it off like a mensch tomorrow. I'd like to wish everyone a great day, and tomorrow we finish off